Russian troops launched an offensive on Avdiivka on October 10th. The city was attacked simultaneously from several directions with the massive use of aircraft, artillery, and armored vehicles. The Ukrainian armed forces responded by massively destroying the enemy's equipment. The New York Times writes the battles for Avdiivka have become the most expensive for Russia in a full-scale war. The Ukrainian armed forces are using artillery to destroy columns of Russian armored vehicles and infantry, even on the approaches to the city.
Recently, the enemy has lost 6,000 soldiers just near Avdiivka, and the fact that they are changing their tactics is due to heavy losses in armored vehicles. The units that were thrown into the assault on Avdiivka were actually thrown to death.
The huge losses of the Russian army near Avdiivka have been reported both by the Ukrainian Armed Forces Command and by Russian military itself. According to the Institute of the Study of War, the Russians used Storm Z infantry units for the meat assaults on Avdiivka, destroying their personnel by 40 to 70% in a matter of days. The dead Russian military personnel are being taken to the morgue at the military clinical hospital in Rostov-on-Don. There are so many of them that relatives of dead complain that staff cannot find a body. At the identification, people are pressured and forced to admit that the body of a stranger is their relative. DNA tests are refused.
In the Rostov morgue, nobody cares. They just say, I give you the body, so take it. What else do you want from me? And if you don't want to take it, then your relative will be labeled as missed instead of dead, so you won't get your compensation. Yes, that's what the attitude is like. But let's imagine for a minute that there is someone concussed and lost his memory. He doesn't remember who he is and will lie in the hospital bed until he dies. And no one will find out who he actually is. This is the attitude to people, and that's how the Russian state treats people.
Payments, however, are not all that simple either. The Russian authorities regularly report on the financial support of the Russian military and their families, but the mobilized contract servicemen and their relatives often complain about long delays and bureaucracy.
It is clear that there will be problems with payments because the Russian economy is not doing well. And it is not a coincidence that at the end of last week the central bank raised the refinancing rate by 2% points. Yes, it shows that there is a lot of inflation in Russia, there is not enough money, it's not being printed, so of course payments are not regular.
Most experts say that even if they sign a contract directly with the Ministry of Defense, participants in the so-called special military operation are not immune from problems. Their families have to fight through the courts for the benefits and payments they are entitled to. And given the scale of current losses in the Russian army, there will be many more such cases in the court. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Bil, UATV News.